These days, so much of the model train equipment, not just for any one particular market, say North America or Europe, but the whole world, are built in China. This has reduced the cost to manufacturing companies that traditionally were based in the US and Europe by transferring the manufacturing process to mainland China. There are two advantages to this. One, higher production levels of detail and advancement is capable using the lower costs of the Chinese development and production. And secondly, the American and European train manufacturers can stay in business and keep their companies and products going by having them built in China for substantially less cost than what would be charged if they used North American or European labour. Now, while there's no doubting that the standard of these models that come from China, superficially at least, are remarkable, I doubt if many of these locomotives that are being sold now, and many rolling stock that are used or built with die-cast parts, will be around in 25 years. And the reason for this is a zinc pest. Now, on my own layout, I have models going back half a century, some of them even older, such as my old Triang transcontinental models. These are as good as the day they were built. Once you give them regular maintenance, clean out any old grease, and occasionally you might have to replace a cracked worm gear, generally not on British-made models, but some of the Europeans. And these models ostensibly should last forever. They were sold in the 1950s as a product that a young boy might have, and later out of the attic as an adult later on, and developed an interest in the hobby beyond just toy trains and towards railway modelling. The same thing happened in the United States and in mainland Europe. Zinc pest is also known as Zamak. It's a kind of a rot, and it's a corrosion that happens to zinc alloys that contain lead impurities. In areas where you have high humidity, most of the places where model trains are sold to the consumer base, the process of zinc pest is accelerated by our climates. It was first discovered in the 1920s, affecting die-cast zinc products, and the problem was solved by using almost 100% pure zinc metal. And after that, models made from the 1960s on in America and from the 1950s and 40s on in Europe are considered free of zinc pest. In fact, zinc pest was eliminated in Europe and North America since about 1960. There was no more traces of it. So if you buy a model train with a die-cast chassis or body made from 1960 on in North America and from the 1940s on in Europe, you will never have a problem with zinc pest. With one exception, models that were built in the old Eastern Bloc. I have some Mehano American stock, particularly one was an FT loco in HO scale. It's the only Eastern Bloc model I've ever had that had the zinc pest problem, and I've got some 50-year-old Pico or Pico HO models on my layout in my collection, and they've shown no signs of zinc pest. To see what happens to the model is remarkable. It starts expanding and bulging. Then this bulging cracks and splits the injected molded plastic shell of the locomotive. If you can manage to struggle to get it out, as I did with this FT model, what you have is a die-cast chassis that's bulging and distorted and twisted in various directions. Pull it hard, it literally crumbles to something like sand. And you can literally demolish the entire chassis just by rubbing it hard with your thumb and your index finger. It will break, turn to a type of powder. Zinc pest we have heard nothing of regarding Chinese models, except we know it's happening. Many people who bought Hornby locomotives made in China are already reporting severe zinc pest issues and are actually buying new die-cast chassis from the same supplier made at the same time. Zinc pest is still a problem wherever die-cast metal is being used in China. In fact, there's no attempts, from what I can gather, to even address the issue of zinc pest. So people who are buying very expensive models with all the bells and whistles, DCC, sound, incredible detail, and everything else manufactured in China, are buying a product that's almost certain to fail within the next 20 years, while the 1950s and 60s models will still be operating simply because of the zinc pest issue. I've heard stories of some people soaking the chassis in vinegar. This is called pickling, and the purpose of this is to get the zinc pest, is to stop the crystallization of the zinc pest before it happens. But I've seen no proof that this actually works. Even so, if you're spending $200 or maybe $300 plus or euros or pounds for a locomotive built in China, and you have to do this to it every so often, take it out of the body, strip it down, remove all the components, remove the motor, and then pickle it in vinegar, then how good of a model is it? And this is something for people to consider going forward. Zinc pest has not been properly addressed by Chinese model train manufacturers. And this is why I have stopped buying anything that's been made in China